An American man called Kyle LeBlanc is seen in the first scene working abroad in a steel factory in Magnitogorsk, Russia. He gets a call one day from his wife Gray, who is upset because he doesn't spend enough time with her. In order to spend more time with her, Kyle has decided to take a few days off from work. On his way home that evening, Kyle makes a call to his wife to let her know about his visit. He hears his wife's screams over the phone, though, and things suddenly change. It turns out that a man by the name of Sergio Cavas has broken into the home and is physically abusing Gray. Kyle rushes home, but by the time he sees his wife's lifeless body on the couch, it's too late. Sergio strikes him from behind and flees as he laments the defeat. Kyle confronts him after pursuing him furiously through Magnitogorsk streets. However, the cops quickly detain them. The two men are brought before the judge in the following scene, but Sergio buys the judge and is found not guilty due to a lack of evidence. Furious at the unfair decision, Kyle decides to retaliate by stealing a revolver from a bailiff and shooting Sergio many times in front of the entire courtroom. He has been given a life sentence without the possibility of release for this offense. Following the incident, Kyle and some criminals are transported to Krvavy prison, which is overseen by the dishonest warden General Rushov. When they get there, they are made to give up their possessions, but Kyle is reluctant to give up his wedding band. Lieutenant Tolik, an officer, beats him up as a result, and then takes the ring forcibly. Later that evening, Kyle sees several jail officers moving Billy Cooper, another American prisoner, to a different cell. Andrei, a jail fighter and member of the Russian mafia, assaults him there. It's obvious that this man bought off the police. The guards take a battered and scared Billy to the hospital the next morning, while Andrei casually joins the other prisoners, pretending as if nothing occurred. Andrei makes fun of Kyle by bringing up his wife as they move in a line. Kyle becomes enraged by this, which leads to a fight between the two of them. Kyle, as a result, is kept in a filthy solitary confinement. He endures several days there before beginning a hunger strike and attempting the unthinkable. At the last second, he realizes he must survive after remembering the sweet times he had with his wife. A few days later, Kyle is moved into a cell with prisoner 451, an African-American man who is suspected of having murdered 3 of his former cellmates. Kyle is a little intimidated by his cellmate's notoriety, but he stays silent. When Kyle's brother-in-law visits him in jail one day, he tells him that Gray was honorably buried, as well as promising to do everything in his power to free Kyle from prison. He advises that, in the interim, Kyle give the guards a little cash in exchange for their assistance. The next day, Kyle runs into Billy in the prison yard, where they start talking. The latter explains that he was sentenced to 18 months in prison for ramming into a restaurant while driving under the influence. Another American prisoner named Malachi, who is confined to a wheelchair, approaches them and interrupts their conversation. He describes the politics of the prison and the many gangs that are housed there, as well as the Russian mafia's partnership with the prison guards. As time goes by, Kyle starts to feel at home, but Andrei keeps making fun of him and inciting him to fight. Kyle has a nightmare one night where Sergio attacks his wife, making him uncomfortable and making him breathe rapidly while he sleeps. His cellmate becomes upset by this and almost chokes him. After this incident, Kyle tries to pay the guards to move him to a different cell, but because he is an American, they demand more money. The action then cuts to a fight event that has been planned within the prison a few days later. Kyle is informed by Malachi that General Rushov organizes these contests and engages in wagering on the participants. The sole unbeaten man, Andrei, beats up an inmate viciously as usual. Malachi responds negatively when Kyle inquires about if prisoner 451 ever engages in combat. However, by putting other prisoners in his cell and then granting their requests to switch to Krvavy, the jail authorities profit handsomely. In addition, prisoners are required to perform labor-intensive tasks. Some of the gang members decide to pull a dirty trick on Kyle during one of these jobs. The cops give them permission to regain their respect after they falsely accuse him of verbally abusing them. Because of this, the gang members severely assaulted Kyle before the guards returned him to his single cell. He can't escape the unpleasant sound of another prisoner coming from the cell next to his. Despite this, all he can do is thrash at the walls. Kyle is freed from solitary prison a month later, and his look has transformed as a result of significant hair and beard growth. Kyle is eating with other prisoners when Andre arrives and starts to harass him as usual. This makes Kyle angry, and as a result, they get into another altercation. The jail officers step in shortly after, and Kyle is once more sent back to the same solitary cell. The tension inside the prison increases over the next few days, as the gangs start fighting and murdering other prisoners over unimportant disagreements. The prison guards are struck by a landmine on one particular day at the job site. Billy and another prisoner decide to break out of the facility while this is going on, but their attempt is unsuccessful. While Billy is immediately arrested, the other prisoner is shot. In the midst of all of this, Kyle starts a rigorous training regimen, since he is continuously bullied by Andre and his thugs. Later, Kyle fights Andre in a different match that is planned. The latter, who is the stronger of the two, starts beating our hero right away, but Kyle surprises everyone by making a startling comeback. He brutally chews off a sizable portion of Andre's neck, causing him to die in misery. Kyle then experiences a mental collapse as the inmates and guards gasp in fear. He obtains the confidence he had previously needed after this fight, which proves to be a turning point in his life. Kyle consistently battles other inmates and keeps up a winning run. He soon develops a harsh exterior from his surroundings and gains respect. His fights become more and more brutal, until he even starts to kill his opponents. He also says that he won't accept assistance from his brother-in-law or the American embassy, since he believes that nothing will change. Malachi and Billy, two of Kyle's supporters, are concerned about his shifting attitude. On the Russian Independence Day, Billy, tired of the physical torture he undergoes, makes another attempt to escape. At one point, 451 asks him, "Do you even know who you are?" To which 451 replies, "Probably." Malachi, who this time offers the guards specific medical care and therapy in exchange for information regarding his escape, betrays him this time. Billy is imprisoned in a cell alongside a prisoner fighter named Valia after being discovered. The latter wants to devour his youthful body with a fervor. Billy spits on Valia's face in retaliation, but this only infuriates him. Valia then beats him to within an inch of his life. Kyle witnesses Billy drawing his final breath before he passes away the following morning. Kyle is advised not to allow the guards or other prisoners to transform him into someone he is not. Kyle is moved by these remarks, and he recognizes that he must now wage another war to regain his inner tranquility and identity. Therefore, he makes the firm decision to forego additional altercations, which infuriates the prison guards. They punish him by hanging him outside in retaliation. Kyle doesn't give up despite having to contend with the severe weather. On the other side, prisoner 451 decides to exact revenge on Malachi after learning of his betrayal of Billy. He sets Malachi on fire after dousing him in flammable liquid, causing a horrifying demise. 451 muses on his own horrible background of being abused and molested as a child by a teacher, while he watches Malachi burn. It is revealed that he killed his teacher in a fiery retaliation, which is how he got himself imprisoned. The prison gangs decide to set aside their differences and come together after being inspired by Kyle's unwavering bravery and fortitude throughout his lengthy punishment. Despite the general's commands, they all reject combat with one another. As a result, the jail staff feels helpless because it is impossible to punish every prisoner. General Rushov and his fellow soldiers are frustrated by the scenario, because they used to make a lot of money betting on the battles. How will they make money, though, if everyone backs Kyle? They design a strategy to get rid of Kyle in order to calm things down, because they believe he is to blame for the insurrection among the prisoners. Before that happens, Kyle is freed from his handcuffs and taken to the hospital to heal. He receives a vision of his deceased wife at this time, and she expresses her joy at his rediscovery of his true self. Gray responds to Kyle's statement that he missed her by saying that anyone really truly leaves us, as long as there is someone to remember us. General Rushov confronts Kyle later in his cell block, angry that his authority is being questioned. Milok, a gigantic prisoner imprisoned apart from the normal populace, is Kyle's opponent in his final forced combat. Kyle had been in solitary confinement with Milok, whose voice he had been hearing through the walls. The man had huge arms from all the bashing. Our hero is being thrown around like a rag doll as the battle starts, but as he is ready to be executed, he starts banging on a door, much like he did when he was imprisoned. As a result, Milok recognizes Kyle and gives him a kind hug. Kyle is the only one, according to Milok, who made an effort to get in touch with him at that time. Unfortunately, this only makes the police angrier, and Lieutenant Tolek commands them to battle on while brandishing his rifle. Kyle says he won't fight anymore, and requests that the police shoot him instead. Tolek prepares to shoot Kyle, but Milok steps in and attacks the policeman before he can. When the convicts see this, they start to protest and turn the tables on the guards. Kyle releases the other prisoners from their cells, sparking a full-scale riot. As Milok fights the jail guards, Milok is mortally shot in the middle of the chaos, and Kyle consoles him before he passes away from his wounds. Soon after, the prison guards take control of the situation by deploying more force and instructing the inmates to return to their cells. Kyle tells 451 about the event with his wife and how he came to be in prison. As they sit side by side, after hearing his tale, 451 offers to aid him in getting out of jail, and the man accepts. 451 begs Kyle to engage in combat one final time for the prison break in order to divert the police focus. Although Kyle is hesitant at first, he eventually agrees after being persuaded by his cellmate. Kyle and Valia are scheduled to square off the next day. Kyle has the upper hand when the fight starts and wrenches Valia's shoulder from its socket. Valia takes out a knife in an attempt to attack in a fit of wrath, but instead, by accident, he kills the head of the Russian mafia. Then, taking advantage of the situation, Kyle knocks Valia to the ground by ramming his head into a pole. After the fight, the guards lead him away to be killed, just as 451 had said. Then, 451 enters the garage through a covert passageway, where he launches an unexpected attack and kills one of the security personnel. Before using the key to unlock Tolek's handcuffs, Kyle pins him underneath a car while holding him at gunpoint. In addition, Kyle finds his wedding band and dons the guard's uniform to pass for the general. He invites 451 to accompany him, but the latter declines and requests that he ensure that the rest of the world is aware of this location. Kyle then successfully escapes from the jail, and 451 then goes to the general's office to put Rushov to death for his crimes. After doing this, 451 is put back in his cell, but Kyle is able to leave and go home. The corruption of Kravavi has been revealed, and the prison has been permanently closed. According to the film's concluding scene, subscribe for more content like this. Don't forget to turn on notifications and leave a like to support the channel. Thank you for watching.